Hello, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Career Live. We're delighted you're with us today. We are having some technical problems with our StreamYard platform earlier, so we're back now and ready to deliver this, what I think is an important presentation on career management, avoiding these job search mistakes. And listen, job search and career are actually intertwined, and so this is I think, an important presentation for us today to really review some of the common mistakes that I've noticed over the last 27 years. It has, I've had a great career. I'm really delighted with the fun I've had in this career. And I've met interesting people, and I've seen really talented people make critical mistakes with their career. So let's move forward now and talk about this important topic. Marshall Goldsmith wrote a great book about career and leadership. What got you here won't get you there. And his thesis is very plain. It's the title, that what worked as a leader 10 years ago, 20 years ago, won't get you to where you want to be. You have to constantly adapt. And that really applies to your job search and career management. What got you here won't get you there. And people dig in their heels because they don't do career management very often, and they only look for jobs periodically. They may look for maybe 15 or 20 jobs in their entire career. Some a few more, some a few less. And so they don't see it as an active part of their career success. Well, let me tell you this, and I saw it 10 years ago when I was working with Nancy Swain, a terrific career coach, a leadership coach in Dallas. And we were presenting at the American College of Healthcare Executives, and she was talking about some of the things she was seeing in her coaching practice that I was not yet seeing in the search business. But let me tell you, today, the cathartic change is it's a tsunami, and it's shifting under our very feet as we stand here today, as we sit here today. Now, we don't understand all the professional and personal implications that these changes will impose on all of us, except to say that we must adapt, because what got us here to where we are in our careers today won't get us to where we want to go. Now, if you're nearing retirement, Godspeed. I hope you had a great career. But if you are not at that point, if you're in your 50s, your 60s, and you want to work 5, 10, 20 more years, you have to adapt. Eventually, we'll find a new balance, but right now, it's a lot of turmoil. This is something I hear all the time. People say, it's not fair. It's not fair that we have to go back to the office. It's not fair that we have to go only 2 days a week. It's not fair that they're asking us to do a lot more work and expect us sometimes to take weekend meetings or come in at night or work longer. It's not fair that they're using continuous layoffs as a way to manage their balance sheet and generate funds for expansion and research development. It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. Well, as I told my son once, if you're looking for fair, come to Dallas in October. We call it the State Fair. Okay, the number one issue that people make mistakes with, and that is they're not prepared. You've got to acknowledge that the world is changing. You've got to acknowledge that this is a dynamic change. You may be reluctant, but you've got to get on this train as soon as possible. Then you have to act like you believe it to be true, because you must be prepared for the unexpected. Layoffs are going to be a common part going forward. The competition for jobs is going to be horrendous going forward. It's already pretty hyper competitive. The way we have to apply for jobs with automation and AI is going to be radically different. It is today. It's more radical than it was 3 years ago. It's certainly more radical than it was 10 years ago. And going forward, you'll find that recruiters will be deploying artificial intelligence to scan and look for candidates and to approve candidates. They will become screeners at the end point and logistics managers. Now, automation is propelling a lot of this sea change in talent acquisition. There's some things happening today that I never thought would be possible. There have always been lazy employment people in corporations and HR, and there have been lazy recruiters. There have been unethical HR people, and there are unethical recruiters. Now, I don't necessarily sense that we're seeing an increase in a breakdown in integrity of the process, but the automation is going to push the limits. You also are going to be dealing with a decline in the number of management and executive roles, yet the graduate schools for healthcare and managed business management and other specialties are pretty full. And there are new graduate programs being created all the time for what I believe is a permanent reduction in the overall management executive level. In my industry, in healthcare, an Atlanta health system just did away with all of their remote site CEOs. That was 13 or 14 positions. Those positions, which allowed somebody to become a CEO, to learn how to be a CEO at an organization. Now it's changed either in title or scope, and those jobs aren't there anymore. Layoffs and consolidations are also fueling this intense competition. It is remarkable. 25 years ago in Dallas, there were almost 25 or 26 major healthcare, either hospitals or major healthcare organizations to which you could apply. Today, because of consolidation, there are 5 or 6 in the entire DFW area. Now, that's primarily on the delivery side. There are some new entrants in home care, etc. But if you're looking for a major hospital system, there are 5 or 6. So consolidation is certainly having an impact. And with consolidation, you now find where some companies are putting one CEO for 3 different organizations. So they're sort of a shared CEO, less people in management executive level. Companies are demanding now in the talent acquisition process, because the competition is so intense, they're demanding high-hanging fruit, just good enough. I meet the expectations. I meet the job selection criteria is not going to be good enough. You're going to have to be exceptional. You're going to have to demonstrate you're exceptional, that you have exceptional skills and exceptional performance. And this is, again, there are some people that specialized in being good enough to keep their job and to keep moving along. But now the competition is changing that paradigm as well. As I said earlier, you're going to see continuous layoffs. In the last 2 weeks, Google, which laid off a boatload of people in 2023, almost 12,000, announced that they were laying off people. UPS announced, or United Parcel Service announced they were laying off 12,000. You're going to see companies adjust their expenses using their headcount, because that's their biggest expense, in order to fund future growth, in order to boost the balance sheet. And so you're going to see a process of layoffs. In the past, layoffs really happened and were really noticeable when there was a consolidation or a merger, when there was maybe a totally restructuring because of some issues. But now you're seeing it as a way to control the asset base of the company. And Google said the reason they're cutting the headcount and will continue to cut the headcount throughout the year in bits and pieces is to be able to free up money to fund their priorities, to add velocity to their investment process. Executives and managers must deliver exceptional results when executing their job. And by the way, you've also got to be pretty exceptional in building your career plan. Now, the second thing we find that people do not do, and they must do going forward, is developing a career plan, and it needs to be in writing. The research is so unbelievably clear. People with career plans that are in writing, with accountability, with steps that they need to pursue, are more successful than those who wait for lightning to strike. That's not going to happen as much anymore. In the old days, when it was manual, you could get your brand out on word of mouth. But with all the technical stuff coming forward, if you want to be a man who has a success and who has time for leisure activities and the resources to do that, you are going to have to be more focused on having a career plan. One, that you clearly outline your mission, vision, and values. What do you want to stand for, and what do you want to accomplish? You also need to have written goals with accountability. You're accountable to yourself. You're also accountable to your family. You have to be accountable to your boss at work but you have to be accountable to your family for being a good provider and for achieving your goals. You need to have a value brand statement. That's something that I have perfected. The original person who came up with the idea of a value proposition was Nancy Swain, my former colleague in Dallas. And she's brilliant. And I've taken some of her elements and added to it. It needs to be a value brand statement that reflects your unique value. The fourth thing you need to have in your plan is a plan, a communications plan. Branding is really supported by communications. How do you communicate who you are and what you stand for and what you've accomplished? Where are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? There's also, you need to have a robust branding strategy. You can't sit back and have a LinkedIn profile and not do anything with it. That's just not correct. That's just not smart anymore. In the old days, it didn't really matter because it was all sort of a manual process. Now, companies that are trying to find the top talent are going through LinkedIn with scanners and with it tied to algorithms for a certain job. It can scan thousands of profiles in a matter of minutes. And you now, instead of having maybe 10 or 15 passive applicants for a search, in addition to those who knew about the job and applied for it, you may have 2 or 3 or 400 or 1,000. Probably 300 to 400 is going to be a number that you'll see more and more. Why? Because companies are looking for the best. If you're not active on LinkedIn, you'll be missed by the scanner and you may not know that the job exists. It's just like 60 to 70% of the jobs you don't know about because they're not listed on the web. They're not listed on the job sites. It's the same principle, except now LinkedIn is one of those key networking tools. If you want to be a CEO, you're going to have to relocate. You very rarely do you see people go into one organization or one town and never really have to move and work their way up the ladder. It does happen, but it's going to happen a lot less. Like it's going to be extremely, extremely, extremely rare going forward. If you're in a profession that requires advancement, relocation for advancement, or if you have to relocate for job security, you need to have buy-in from your family. There's some jobs that, like in some churches, the Methodist minister used to get, when he's on his way up to the bigger church, he used to get moved every 3 years, whether he needed it or not. The Army moves its officers every 2 to 3 years. Military wives understand that proposition, but it's never really been front and center in the career block. It is now. You must be sure that your family understands that because of the economy, the way things are changing, how job search is occurring, how companies are reducing talent periodically, how companies are being sold and consolidated, relocation will be an important part of your life going forward. And you can't say, no, I'm not going to do that, because you're just going to put yourself in a box. And I know some extremely brilliant CEOs that promise their family, no, I will not move. We'll move, take this job, but that's it, I'm done. And then that job, for whatever reason, politics, a bad economy, that job didn't work out. Or that job ended after 5 or 6 or 7 years. And now, in order to make the same kind of income that you've been making, you're going to have to relocate. Well, I'm not going to because I promised my family I wouldn't do it. You put yourself in a box and you're going to limit your career and you're going to limit your income. Don't do that. Start on the front end. If you're an early careerist and you don't have kids yet, you need to, and maybe if you're not even married, when you get married, you need to have part of the conversation about getting married is you need to talk about careers, and who's going to be moving and how we're going to manage that as a family. And I know some wives that say, well, he moved for me last time, I'm moving here for him next time. But now with remote work, there is some flexibility, but a lot of people, there are a lot of jobs that pay really, really well that doesn't work so good with. So you've got to understand career relocations will be part of the paradigm going forward. Now, in today's economy, career planning, as I've just alluded to, requires family planning. And so I think you really need to not only communicate with your spouse or your partner, what's going on, but you also need to be accountable to them on your performance at work. Because being good enough in your job is no guarantee that you'll be able to keep your job. So you need to be sure that you are exceeding expectations in all areas. It is a zero-sum game when they do layoffs. Excuse me. In a zero-sum game, people win and people lose. If you've just been getting by, if you haven't engaged in building internal networks in the office, also known as office politics, and if you want to get a good rundown on that, we have a video on that online that we're re-recording today. But it's a great set of ideas for how you can navigate office politics. But you've got to build strong internal networks. You have to deliver exceptional performance. Why? Because if there's a layoff, if you're just good enough and you don't have a network, you'll be the one that's easy to push out the front door. Don't let that happen to you. Now that you have a plan, you have to change. You can't just sit back and say, well, I'm busy. I don't have time. There's so many excuses. It's an active program now. You have to engage in active career management. It's just the way it is. John Maynard Keynes said that the difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as in escaping from the old ones. You've got to look at the way you've done things in the past and be ready to move expeditiously forward. Now, number 3, embracing networking 3.0. Networking in the past, I've got my shrimp and I've got my drink and oh my God, you want a business card? Well, I'm going to balance this. And that's still a valid way to network. But we also have LinkedIn, which is a billboard and a way to do research on companies, research on individuals that we would like to connect with. It's the front door, the electronic front door to networking. Now, if you want to talk to me about whether LinkedIn can help you do peer-to-peer relationship building, the answer is it's a tool. It's a small part of the tool bag, but you still have to use the traditional methods. And we've done a big program on networking as well. And we also have that in our courses on Your Career Community and our Guiding Your Career Academy. And that's $48 a month. If you do not have a strategically aligned network going forward, please do not do what everybody says. Oh, you have to have a network. You need to be talking to people about finding a job. And yet people go out and they resort to what we call network begging, AKA focus on the future and hope for the best, okay? The truth is, there are so many jobs out there that nobody knows about, but somebody associated with the organization might. And if you have a connection that has connections that can help you get in the front door, that's the way a lot of people are getting jobs. A lot of the really best jobs are referrals. Without a network, you won't find that referral unless you have a robust LinkedIn profile and you spend 5 or 6 days a week posting on that platform. So you need to network. This is not going to be a nice thing to do, okay? It's going to be a must-have situation. You've got to create a network that is aligned with your career plan. That's what Networking 3.0 is. You have a plan. Who do I need to know? Where do I need the support to get to that plan, to achieve that plan, to achieve that next step in my career? So you need networking contacts that are associated with your career plan, that align with your career plan. And you have to network it as you evolve. You move on to other jobs. Some of the people that helped get you where you are today may not be able to take you in the future. You don't just not talk to them anymore. You don't sweep them under the rug. You continue to build your network. They may move into what we call a secondary priority contact, and you may not talk to them as much, or you may not send them as much. But as you move forward, your network has to evolve. It has to. You will find yourself on the sidelines or making a lot less money without that network. Focus on building relationships. That takes time. That's why we say if you lose your job and you want to start networking tomorrow, it's too late. Now, you may find somebody that can help you, but you have to be very careful. Why? Because if you start asking people to help you find a job, that's transactional. People don't like it. And if you go, please help me find a job, once they hear that, they can't unhear that. That hurts your brand. It may even affect your relationship. So don't do network begging. Network to help other people. That's the key rule in networking. You're not networking to help yourself. You will benefit from the relationship, but you're networking and you have to be prepared to help someone else and be compassionate about it. Now, this is a big, big mistake. I don't have time to do all that stuff. I'm busy and I've got family responsibilities. Okay? When I heard that in a CEO search, I never advance that person going forward. I'd ask them about their network and how much networking they do. I just don't really have time for that. Those people rarely move forward. It happened once or twice in 27 years, and that's a pretty small percentage. This is common. It is lame as all get out. If you say that, it's lame. Stop saying it. It can sideline or cut your career short. I've seen it happen time and time again. Please don't let that happen to you. Please be involved in career management and networking. You are saying to yourself or others, hey, I'm a terrible CEO of my career. That's what you're saying. And if you can't manage your career, how in God's name are you going to manage my client's business? That's really how you manage your career, what your reputation looks like, what your level of accomplishment looks like. It's all part of why we should hire you. It's why we should hire you. Most people aren't going to ask about your networking, but let me tell you something. Smart recruiters do, because it tells them who you know and the resources that you can fall back on. Now, position number 4, you must follow the recipe. Finding a job and managing your career, like anything else, whether you're doing YouTube videos, there's a formula to succeed. If you're writing a book, there is a tried and true formula that every book in the world follows. A great thing, Everyday Storytelling, is a great book if you're learn how to do that. But it's a formula, it's a recipe, and you have to follow it. If you have a great idea and you take it to a Hollywood studio, it may be the most incredible idea in the world, but if you're not following the pattern, they're not even going to talk to you. You've got to follow the formula. You've got to follow the recipe, or the cake ain't going to be that good. Shortcuts, if you want to take shortcuts, I don't really need to do that. I hadn't done that in the past. Why do I need to walk? That will add days, even months to your job search. Or it will block you in where you want to go. So don't do shortcuts. Now, do employers and recruiters lie and ghost? Yes, they will. But that's no excuse for their bad behavior, nor is it any excuse for you to give up and say, well, I'm just not going to do that. Those guys are, rotten crooks anyway, and this is how they do all the time. Well, every recruiter's made mistakes. Some recruiters are just naturally averse to telling somebody they didn't get a job, and so they just ghost all the time. Those people usually don't stay in the industry because they don't make enough money, and nobody trusts them when they do that. But you can't use their failings for a reason for your failings. Don't do that. Don't let their bad behavior detour your career. Every week, every month, every year from now for the rest of your career, you must focus on 1, doing an exceptional job in your job, and 2, you must spend time nurturing your career brand. You must execute your plan and build a career network of relationships that are professionally meaningful. This is critical for your future. Now, number 5, career management is a zero-sum game. That means there are winners and losers. When you get laid off, it means you lost, somebody else kept their job. Why? Because you were easy to lay off. You didn't do a good job. You didn't have a good internal network. In a job search, one person is going to get the job. There are going to be 200 or 300 that don't get the job. Everything is a winner and loser thing in career management. Now, doing your job, it's not a zero-sum game. That's a different formula. But there are winners and losers in career management every day, every week, every month, every year. Now, which will you be? Are you going to be the winner on the winning ticket? As an old county judge in Tarrant County in Fort Worth once said, the train is on the tracks. Are you going to be on the train, or are you going to be on the tracks? The decisions you make, there are consequences. And in the end, the only people who care about how you play the game and whether you're going to be a winner or a loser, and whether you're going to follow the recipe and be actively engaged, the only people who care will be those who depend on you for support. Certainly your career competitors are not going to care whether you do what you need to do or not. It's just not going to happen. So the question is, where am I going to see you? I would rather be on the train than the tracks. And while I enjoy big techs at the State Fair of Texas, I prefer to be in a job and not worrying about what's fair and not fair. I prefer to be in a job and try to do exceptional work. Some days I don't. I fall short, but I start the next day thankful for the opportunity. I start the next day grateful for all the blessings I have, and I try to do it better. Now, tomorrow, which will be the February the 2nd, if you're watching this on video, you'll be able to see a replay of this as well. Your career questions, a new part of our membership program. For now, it's going to be open to the public. Eventually, it'll be members only. It will be 11 a.m. Central Time on Friday. You can find this on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Initially, we'll probably go for about 30 minutes. We may go longer if we get a little more questions, but that's our plan. It's a new feature, and we hope that you'll be around to be with us tomorrow. So I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to apologize that this morning we're not able to do this live, and that we've had a few problems with the streaming service recording this afternoon, but we're going to get past all this. I'm continuing to learn. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to be here to visit with you and to share my ideas about career management. I'm John Self, and thanks for joining us.